So lots of questions flying around about how you could be held responsible for the speech of others. I'm not entirely sure how they're going to shake this out. This is Sunday. I learned about this after I got home from work yesterday. Obviously, the law library closes early on Saturday and it's not open on Sunday. Ooh, that's a pretty flower. So, you know, I can't really give too informed of an answer, but we can go over some scenarios that may shed some light about ways how someone else's speech could be attributed to you. Scenario number one, let's step away entirely from speech and let's say you own a widget. Doesn't really matter what the widget is. It could be a car, could be a gun, could be really anything. Your friend says, hey, I want to borrow your widget. And you say, sure, yeah, no problem. Your friend then takes that widget and goes and kills someone with it. Are you responsible? No, probably not. At least not criminally. Could a lawyer find some negligence theory? Maybe. But let's kind of stay away from that for now. So you're probably not going to be criminally liable for that first incident. Let's say that you know that friend does that. And then your friend comes to you a second time and says, hey, can I borrow your widget? And you say, I don't know, man. Last time you went out and you killed somebody with it. And he said, no, bro, I promise this time I won't take your widget and kill anybody with it. Okay, sure, you can borrow my widget. My dog loves sprinklers. It's 6:20 in the morning and he's putting his face in sprinklers. So your friend takes the widget out and he kills somebody with it. Again, are you going to be criminally liable? Ooh, maybe. Prosecution might try to get some sort of an accomplice theory in there. They might go for conspiracy. Who knows what they're going to go for? I mean, I'm not saying that they could win on any of these things, but there is a possibility that they could arrest you over it with the attempt to pin something on you. Now let's say it's the 20th time that your friend is asking you to borrow this widget, and each prior time he has taken this widget out to kill somebody with it. And you say yes, and he takes the widget out again for the 20th time and he kills somebody with it. Do you think you would have no criminal responsibility? I think you would. I think a finder of fact could find that you were aiding your friend in your friend's criminal enterprise at a very minimum, and may be able to prove that you are conspiring with your friend to kill these people at a maximum. And remember, conspiracy to commit murder has the same penalties as murder. And attempted murder, well, that would roll up into the murder, but, you know. Anyway. Aiding and abetting, I think, has the same. I'd probably depend on the state. I don't really play around in murder laws very often, but you get the point. So we can see how a history of allowing someone to use your resources to commit crimes may lead to you being liable, criminally liable, for some or all of those crimes. Now let's look at a more freedom of speechy kind of thing. Let's say that you run a website. It's just your website, only you could post on it. Again, I'm using this for analysis, not necessarily to provide a direct analogy to what's happening here. So yes, I understand there are differences. You can save everybody's time by not pointing out the differences, but by trying to understand the similarities and where I'm going with it. So let's say you run a website where you post other people's news articles, and no one really cares that you do it, so you're not really worried about copyright or fair use or anything like that. And let's say that you always post articles that are encouraging other people to go kill cops. Let's just say that that's what you're doing. And let's say that at some point, somebody who follows your website, there's another dog yip over there. My dog is very interested. My dogs, I should say. That's not a cat. God damn it, that is not a cat. Cats are terrible. Yes, I said it, cats are terrible. I mean, I wouldn't want to own one. They poop inside the house, and they carry these parasites that can actually affect your brain. The toxoplasmosis or whatever parasites, they can actually affect your brain, making you like cats more. They think that the crazy cat ladies are more easily affected by this. No, I don't have a link on it. You can Google it. No, I'm not saying it's actually true, but I'm just saying I don't want an animal that poops in the house. Thank you. I have enough trouble with these idiots every once in a while throwing up in the house. I don't want something pooping in the house. My wife had like 3 cats when I met her. Ugh, it's terrible. Anyway, so where were we? Oh yes, the website. Somebody who follows your website ends up going out and murdering a cop. Could you be liable? Maybe. It comes down to a question of fact. Let's say, because remember, you've written nothing on this. You're just putting up other people's articles. Now let's say that you start chopping those articles and only putting portions of them out there. Still entirely other people's words. Entirely other people's words. But you arrange them in such a way that makes it more compelling. The case for killing cops makes it more compelling. And then someone goes out there and kills a cop. Now are you liable? Well, it's getting a little iffier, isn't it? Isn't it? Now let's say that you go out and you take those articles and you just cut out words. And you arrange those words in such a way as to where you are specifically asking people to go out and kill cops. These are all somebody else's words. Think of it like those ransom notes that you see in the movies, where they've cut words and phrases and letters out of magazines, and they use glue to paste it onto the page, and they mail that to the police. Essentially, you've turned somebody else's words into your own. You've taken ownership of them. So in that situation, I think we could all agree that those words that you've arranged deliberately in order to communicate your ideas, or somebody else's words, but you've communicated it, or you've arranged them to communicate your ideas, you're fully responsible for. Now, where is that bright line where it stops being somebody else's ideas and it starts being yours? Well, that's a good question, and that's what the finder of fact is for. Oh, we don't need judges, it's all so clear. No, no, it's not. So in these particular cases, I don't know exactly what the evidence that the police have is. I don't know if the alleged threats were clear and communicated clearly? I couldn't tell you. So it's hard for me to come up with a really good working theory, especially since I'm not able to research the current state of the law right now. And I am fairly busy at work, being a janitor. That was funny. Someone's like, I think you're a janitor. I'm like, actually, that kind of makes sense. I'm in there on a Saturday. Yeah, so I am fairly busy with work. So I don't know when I'll have time. I have to be at work at 7 a.m. Because I've got a petitioner's response to respondents' post-trial brief that I finished yesterday, but boss man needs to go over, and he's probably going to have a few minor corrections, and I need to get that done so that he could take it with him. He's actually going down to do a deposition. He needs to have that with him for the deposition for whatever reason I don't entirely know. And then at 8, I've got another client coming in. Gotta make a declaration for her, responding to the family law issue. And then the actual reason why I went in yesterday was because meeting with a client to prepare a trial brief, and I finished the part with her, so I have the rough outline, but I need to get that put together because a trial brief needs to be done as soon as possible. It's just got a lot to do. So anyway, I'm not entirely sure that I'm going to be able to get it done on Monday, so that's why you're getting speculation from me. But hopefully it's speculation that you can find useful. I'm not saying that any of the auditors will be convicted of this. I've never said that. My contention is that I think the police probably have probable cause for it. And I don't know why people are so angry at that particular proposition. Having probable cause for something doesn't mean that the person actually did it. Having probable cause for something doesn't mean that there will be a conviction on it. Having probable cause for something doesn't even mean that the police officer correctly interpreted the statutes. Probable cause is a much, much lower standard of proof than what you would need to convict somebody. So if you bear that in mind, that's why I'm saying I think that they probably have probable cause, because it was so planned out. Is it retaliatory? Probably, yeah. I mean, you poke the hornet's nest for long enough and eventually you're going to get a response, and they got a response. And now the question is, were they prepared enough to handle it? And I would hazard a guess they probably weren't. So, and is it linked tightly enough to any attacks on constitutionally protected activities? And again, I know Ron really wants to fight this, but Padilla was allowed to film freely until he got into that closed portion of the city hall, and he was trespassed. He was allowed to film freely up to that point. The next day or a day or two later, Black Label Cop Watch came with Univision, and they were able to film freely. At a certain point, the police got tired of it disrupting their operations, and they stopped it. A court's going to look at this and say, well, excuse me, let me rephrase this. In my opinion, a court will look at this, a neutral finder of fact will look at this, and we'll see Mexican Padilla acting a fool. Oh, he was abused when he was arrested. Oh, really? Really? And your evidence is what? The word of Mr. Padilla? I'm sure a judge will look at this and with Mr. Padilla's record and subsequent actions will find that yes, Mr. Padilla was indeed abused, because abusers often go back and seek out further contact with their abusers. That's just, whew, oh my God. Oh, and he hurt your ear, Mr. Padilla. Well, I'm glad you went to the doctor, and the doctor may find that you do have a boo-boo, but that's not the sticky wicket. The sticky wicket is, was their use of force reasonable? And you're going to have to convince, if you're trying to go for a lawsuit on it, you're going to have to convince probably a jury, because they're probably going to want a jury trial. You're going to have to convince a jury that the actions of that chief of police were unreasonable. Even if you could prove that it was unreasonable, then still you'll have an issue of damages. You might get compensated for the trip to the hospital if that cost you anything. I don't know if that one cost you a job. It may have, but that wouldn't be from the that'd be from the arrest, not from the use of force. So anyway, but yeah, if you think that if you maintain, like Ron does, that this has nothing to do with Padilla's arrest, I don't know what evidence you're looking at, because it is a direct line from Padilla's arrest to Black Label Cop Watch showing up, to Mark Brown showing up, to Mark Brown getting arrested over a second trespass, to this situation that we have now. It is a direct line, and Padilla trespassing is along the entire route. And even with Mark Brown, they prevented him from filming inside, but that was it. I mean, he wasn't a target of anything. They were going after Padilla, and one of the cops was even like, no, don't worry about him, or something like that. And then Mark Brown jumped in the middle of it, and he was yelling about, what's your name? What's your badge number? Ah. And then all of a sudden he's screaming, and you hear that zzz, zzz. Was he resisting again? We don't know. I'm assuming he was. And I'm assuming he was based on the evidence that he was tased and Padilla wasn't. I'm assuming that he was because he was yelling, I'm not resisting, as they were yelling, stop resisting. That's all the evidence we have. Reasonable minds can differ. If you think that Mark Brown is smart enough to not resist arrest, I mean, say what you will about Common Joe, but boy, he knows how to not resist arrest. I will go ragdoll limp. I am not resisting. Are we all calm here, fellas? I am not resisting. I will go ragdoll limp for you. Are we cool? Are we all calm? Okay. Don't hurt me, especially not my face. Please don't hurt me, Mr. Officer. I love you. I'll give you a reach around if you don't put me in cuffs. No? Okay. Can you just double lock the cuff, please? Please. Oh, I love it when you abuse me. Oh, I'm sorry. What were we talking about? Not about my fantasies with Common Joe. There you go, guys. There's your fodder. Enjoy it. I know Trim Hits will love that one. Anyway, so yeah, that is my Amblin and Ramblin video for today. Or Ramblin and Amblin. I think I decided on Ramblin while Amblin. Anyway, hey look, doggy's coming this way. We're crossing the street. I didn't look which way before I started crossing. I'm a jaywalker, and I have it on evidence. I filmed it. Send the police. Have a good day.